grateful, and I feel very fortunate every day that I am on tour. That I get to do this in my life. It's what certain people would kill for to do, and I'm fortunate enough to get to do it. I hope I get to do it for a lot longer.
A bunch of old weed.
We're gonna pause for a minute.
Weed's better than no weed.
We grew up in the Bay Area thrash scene, basically.
It was like nothing you could ever imagine if that's the type of music you were into.
It's weird because when people ask that, it was just so normal for us because we didn't know anything otherwise.
You know, it started off with a bunch of people that were inspired by, new wave of British heavy metal that stemmed from, first being into Sabbath and then into this. And the scene that was going on in San Francisco was just so special and so tight-knit. And it was, bands that wanted to take it to the new wave of British heavy metal to another, another tier as far as aggression and speed. And I think that, they beyond achieved that with bands like Exodus and then, Metallica when they came over. And just forget about it. They were kings.
Those early days, Exodus, when they did their demo and Metallica came up to the Bay and started playing, that was a whole new movement of music.
The first time you saw, Metallica, you were completely affected. And I mean, immediately you went back and started writing stuff, a lot more aggressive, a lot more technical. And the great thing about it was all the bands that were around back at that time were all friends and fans, and there was a lot of friendly competition, which I think helped everyone, hone their chops and find their own identity as well.
I think what the most interesting thing about the Bay Area was that so many of us bands came from that history, but none of us sound the same. Everybody got their own identity from Forbidden, Death Angel, Testament, Exodus, Heathens, just everybody had their own identity.
It was just like the common weekend occurrence for us to go out to the city or go out to Berkeley and try to get into shows and watch bands. Pretty soon we were in one of the bands ourselves. We'd hang with all the other bands, all the aforementioned bands that the Bay Area thrash scene that grew up together. Either at house parties or at shows. We'd go to one show on Friday, another show on Saturday. People would come to our shows.
Back then, like on Broadway, for example, you had 5 clubs. You can go see shows. You go catch the early show, the first band on, and then go across the street and catch the next act, and then catch the headliner down the street, on Broadway or something. So I think that scene back there was actually more healthy because there was just a lot of community where everybody went to the same shows. You seen the same fan base, same people, everybody supporting each other, and it was so new.
When you played shows back then, you'd look out and you would see, the guys from Legacy at the time or the Exodus guys, and if Metallica happened to be in town, you'd see the Metallica guys out there. And to be a teenager and to see, your peers and people that you absolutely respect out there, headbanging and, checking out your band, it was an incredible time to be alive.
It had to be around, Ruthie Stone, not the old Waldorf, because I think that preceded that, But I think the first time they played with us might have been Ruthie's. you know, a bunch of fucking 16-year-old kids.
We didn't really realize what was happening, how big it was going to be, and you know what kind of an impact it was going to make on the metal scene or the music scene in general.
Via underground tape trading and fanzines from all over the world, you knew, and we knew we were part of something special, because the impact was felt as far as, you know, Eastern Bloc countries to Germany to Holland.
The area was everywhere in the world, you know. It definitely brought a new brand of music, you know, especially aggressive and very free, with a lot of the hardcore and punk influence.
So this thrash metal movement turned into this attitude and this whole new movement, a whole new sound, with that kind of going against the grain attitude.
Not only that, but it's also, you know, around today, which says a lot.
The original lineup of Death Angel was formed kind of by accident.
Well, at that time, it was interesting, because, you know, we were in the Bay Area. It was well known. We were the youngest band, and not only the Bay Area, pretty much the world. We were the youngest thrash metal band there was.
You know, they were fucking bunch of kids. They looked like they're, you know, barely growing their short and curlies, you know, and they were like just playing like totally raging thrash metal. It was killer.
I was 15. Rob was 15 as well. Dennis and Gus were, I believe, 15, 16, and Andy was 11, 12. That was just, it was kind of a really wild thing, because we blew people's minds by, you know, the age we were.
You know, originally it was the 5 cousins.
And I remember, like, the first thing I think I heard or probably read in, like, you know, like Metal Forces magazine or something like that, or maybe one of those, like, San Francisco zines, you know, it was like about this band from San Francisco, and they were all like 14 years old. They're like a bunch of Filipino cousins, and they were all 14, and I was like, huh? Like, I gotta check that out. Like, what's that all about?
At the beginning, we didn't really actually sit down and think, wow, we're so young and we're playing music. The thought never really crossed our minds. Like, imagine what we're doing right now. We're jamming and we're young.
We were young, I guess, years back. I mean, you know, it was like the talk of the town. Oh, these guys are really young, you know, it's really incredible, especially the drummer, you know, he's so young.
I mean, it's an obvious press point, something to push us, but it got to the point where sometimes in so many interviews it would just hit on the points that they're young and they're related, and then like it just go on about how young and we're related, and then like near the end of the last paragraph it might be like, oh yeah, and they play music.
And it was myself, Andy Gallion on drums, Gus Peppa on rhythm guitar, Dennis Peppa on bass, and Mark on vocals.
Rob and Andy are first cousins. Dennis and Gus are first cousins. And then I believe everyone else is second cousins, and I'm second cousins with everyone. So we've known each other pretty much everyone but Gus, because Gus was in the Philippines when we were born. But since, you know, we were babies, literally babies to, you know, children, our families would get together and we hung out all the time, family gatherings, everything.
Mark actually didn't come into the picture till 1984.
The band formed in 82. I didn't join till 84.
His first gig was with us. We opened for Megadeth at the Stone in San Francisco, and that's when Mark transitioned from being a roadie of the band to the actual lead singer of the band.
It started with one song that became me singing 2 songs. It eventually became me singing 3 songs. You know, I'd go out live on stage for things like that.
Originally it was the 4 of us. Mark wasn't in it at the very beginning, and Dennis and I were trading off doing lead vocals, but we wanted a front man, a real front man, a power front man, and someone that could scream his head off and work the crowd, which, as you know, Mark can really do.
Let's go! Good evening, Philadelphia! Chill as one! Do you feel like doing some singing? People like you are beautiful and wonderful to meet.
Rob approached me because I was already taking voice lessons and I had this naturally loud voice, and I had this ability to scream, you know, for a really long time, even as a child, and said, you know, come on down to the rehearsal place. Mind you, the rehearsal place was Andy's parents' garage, and we went down there, and Rob had written a song, Kill As One, and we, you know, taped it with a boom box and a cardboard box with a jacket over it, listened to it back, and, you know, they dug what they heard, and I dug doing it.
At one point, we auditioned a vocalist before Mark was in the band. And damn, what was that dude's name? You know, it's amazing enough that I can even remember all this. So, it might have been Scott. Sorry, dude, if I can't remember your name. But you did good. I remember he was holding these long, high-pitched notes that we thought was badass. But somehow, the vibe just wasn't all the way there. And so, eventually, the lineup was solid with Mark on vocals. And by 1984, the end of 84, the lineup was set.
I just assumed, well, I guess I got the gig. It was never like this, you're the singer. You know, it just happened.
You just hope like the people don't think, oh, look, another new band. There was a lot of work behind this, and it was just not like an overnight thing.
By this point, I had become friends with Kirk Hammett. We all kind of had, from the Bay Area scene, Ruthie's In and whatnot, and we'd always give him tapes of us, you know, songs we've written. He always had a fondness for us. Him and Cliff Burton really grasped on to us. Kirk came up to us one day and said, you know, I'd like to, if you're interested, I'm downtime and I'm in town for a while and would really like to, you know, produce a demo tape for you guys. And you're kidding me, you know, Ride the Lightning was just came out, you know, kind of thing, and it was incredible, this opportunity. So we said, hell yeah.
That demo did give us more recognition and more respect and got us, you know, a lot of people hearing of us outside of the Bay Area, because that's when tape trading was a big thing, and that tape got traded. It got traded a lot, and of course, because of Kirk's involvement, that definitely helped push it.
I don't know if I was in high school or if it was right after high school, but me and my friends used to just pick up all different tapes, thrash metal or whatever, and we heard of Death Angel and picked that up.
The first time I heard of Death Angel was a friend of mine who was a couple years older than me. He was in the underground scene, like the tape trading scene. I wasn't yet. I was just buying albums, being a metal and punk fan and stuff. And he showed me this fanzine at school. He was a few years my senior, and he showed me. It was like a review of the Death Angel demo. It was produced by Kirk Hammett, I believe, and I was like, well, okay.
It was a 3-song demo. The first song was Thrashers, second song was Killers 1, and the last song was, the Ultraviolence, the 11-minute instrumental.
I believe we played at the Ritz in New York.
We did. We played New York City at the old Ritz from a demo tape.
With Slayer and Overkill because of that demo.
There were already people wearing Death Angel shirts then via, just tape trading, and, we printed some shirts. There was silk screen shirts that Rob, silk screened at our high school. But we were selling them, via underground magazines and whatnot, and people would send away from them. But yeah, people were wearing Death Angel shirts. We got up there and played at the old Ritz, and there was a pit, and people were singing the songs they knew, and they knew more than just the 3 songs from the Killers 1 demo, because they collected bootlegs, from our live shows at Ruthie's, So it was pretty incredible.
And it definitely did get us signed. So that demo did a lot for us. Definitely.
And that was when we knew we were definitely part of something much bigger than the Bay Area, for sure, when we got here from a demo. And, it was incredible. I fell in love with New York, from that day on. It's still one of my favorite places in the world. Yeah.
Off of the Killers 1 demo, we got the attention from Enigma Records. We went to record the Ultraviolence, our debut album. We already had all the songs written because we'd already been a band for years, and we'd been playing these songs live for years. So the process of the pre-production was basically no pre-production. We didn't even understand what pre-production was. We just did some extra practicing and went into the studio to record it.
It'll always be my favorite record, to me, hands down. Why? Because it is the ultimate achievement when, especially of that era, when you couldn't necessarily just release your own CDs and record them in your house or record them at your rehearsal studio and release them and have people search on the internet. You did, as I said, have to get a demo tape, send them out to record companies, physical packages and stuff, and hope that they'd even open them. And if they did, you'd do the back and forth thing. And so to get signed back then, it was a huge accomplishment.
We recorded that album in 3 days. 3 days from beginning to end. Okay, so needless to say, there's a lot of energy on that album, a lot of feeling and raw energy, and you just can really feel the angst and the punk rock vibe of what we were going through, and basically due to the fact that we had no experience and no budget and nothing else is why it was so raw. But it's cool that way. I mean, it's kind of cool how a lot of people's first album is really raw that way because of that.
First time I heard of Death Angel was probably 1987. Ultraviolence. And a friend of mine was going to interview them. She worked for Spin magazine, and she was so excited about it because I guess at the time they were the youngest metal band. And I said, yeah, it's cool, man. They're from SF.
Bill, the Carcass guitarist, had the demo or something. And for me, I remember the album came out, the little skulls, the logo.
That, to me, to this day, it's one of my proudest moments ever, was the day I held the Ultraviolence in my hand for the first time. Full artwork and whatnot. It was incredible. And it was, I remember they handed me the CD of it, and I thought, what's this thing? This is a joke. It mostly was released on vinyl, and they printed a few CDs.
Listening back to the album, of course, I could just see how it's not that tight, but compared to the albums we did later.
To me, it is just our quintessential thrash album that we've recorded.
But I still love the album because of the feeling and the vibe that it has, and it just captures us totally in that moment.
Yeah, I love it, and to this day, it's revered by people in the thrash metal scene, and it always makes top 20 lists of the Bay Area thrash metal albums or thrash metal albums of all time or whatever. So it's it's a piece of work I'm really, really proud of.
It ended up to be a classic thrash album.
Before I was even playing drums, before I was into the idea of being a musician in this scene at all, I had their stuff. I was familiar with their stuff. I had the Ultraviolence, and there's an instrumental song on there, and I kind of learned tried to learn a bit about the band. There wasn't even the internet back then to research all this stuff, but I knew it was kind of like there were a couple brothers in the band, and that was cool about me and Willie starting to play music together.
Dennis and Gus, who are cousins, by the way, even though they have the same last name. They're cousins.
And they were kind of one of the first bands that, although at the time you could tell they were just kind of coming into their own at their age, they were really pushing the musical capabilities, the boundaries of what people were doing with heavy music at the time.
We kind of pushed the envelope and brought in a bunch of different sounds that weren't typically heard on thrash metal records or in thrash metal songs.
We were trying to definitely push ourselves to variate our style and bring in a lot of the influences of music that we'd been listening to in between the first and the second album.
Frolic Through the Park, to me, is a prime example of musicians growing as musicians and wanting to explore different types of styles.
So there's a lot more diversity in that album, and it's a lot more discombobulated arrangement-wise and musically.
And we were all growing as musicians and growing as kids. Hell, we were kids when we recorded the first album, to young teens, and by the second album, we were all latter teens.
And we kind of feel that Frolic Through the Park is kind of our bastard album, so to speak. It's kind of our odd album, but a lot of people like it.
A lot of people love this record. It was one of our most popular selling records because of a track on it called Bored.
The song was initially a joke, really. We were just messing around, writing something with this crazy groove, and it wasn't even supposed to be on the album, but the label, they liked it, people liked it, and everyone wanted it to be on there because it was catchy, I guess, and so that was the first single and the video that kind of got us a lot of exposure.
I'm bored.
video for Bored came out, I think that shook up everybody.
The song that really hit me, you know, I think it was Bored. The riff and stuff.
A ton of MTV airplay, especially Headbangers Ball, and that's when, you know, it was just hitting Headbangers Ball. And, you know, Bored was this kind of quirky song with this undeniable catchy riff. It helped launch the second album, and the second album, you know, sold extremely well because of that.
Try so hard, but it's more like I keep waiting all the time. I think I've reached the end of the line.
I'm bored.
In the end, we were pretty much defined by that song for quite some time, and even to this day in many people's eyes, because that was like one of the most popular songs we had. And it was timely with the video on MTV and everything, got a lot of airplay. You know, all that.
By the time we did Frolic Through the Park, we'd already toured pretty extensively for both Frolic Through the Park and the Ultraviolence, and started writing for the next record. By this time, we were getting a lot of interest from other labels. Major labels were now approaching us.
By 1989, we got picked up by Geffen Records,
which was a whole other can of beans, so to speak.
So we signed a major label.
A whole other level happens.
Everything got a lot bigger, a lot different.
Budget we had with Ultraviolence, which to us was colossal at the time. We recorded the Ultraviolence, and I think we recorded it in 3 days, mixed it in 5. Frolic Through the Park was recorded and mixed in 2 weeks. Act 3, I think recording and mixing was some, like, Jesus Christ, like 2-3 months, something.
By this time we had transferred to different management, and just the whole machine was getting a lot bigger around us.
And, you know, we were down in LA, we were recording with Max Norman, who produced, you know, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman.
Of course, 2 of our favorite albums until this day were with Ozzy and Randy Rhoads, which was just, you know, we worshiped those guys. And so we were just overwhelmed by all that stuff.
And he came out for pre-production, and we would go over song after song after song and splice up parts, and we'd go over rough arrangements, and we would smooth out songs, and it was really good because he'd pick apart each individual person and just what they were going through at that time, and I think that made it really strong. Because we always figured he'd come in, and since he'd worked with so many people before and he'd established a name for himself, that he might come in and try to dictate the whole project. Like, he had this vision of this big guy behind the desk, you'll do it my way, you'll do it my way.
Being signed to a major opened up a whole world that we had always dreamed of, and that's with working with a major producer, getting into a studio and, you know, having time to record, having time to mix.
To us at the time, it was kind of weird. We sort of didn't see it for what it was, as were most of the things happening to us back then, because things were happening fast. And we were so young that we couldn't really comprehend the big picture of things. Things were just happening right then, and a lot of people were advising us.
At the same time, Geffen Records also really, really pushed us.
We weren't really able to enjoy, I think, aspects of getting signed to a major label, and, you know, the power and the money that came with it. We didn't know about that. Our manager was kind of taking advantage of us at that point of time. That's a whole nother story. So things were sort of the same to us. You know, the only thing that really changed was that we just thought everyone was just getting a lot more strict and forcing us to do a lot more work, and forcing us to do this and forcing us to do that. And, you know, all we knew is that we were now getting $600 a month. We were getting $600 a month to live off of and work on music only for that album.
And we wrote, I believe, something like 30 or 40 songs for that record. And prior to that, you know, with Ultraviolence or Frolic, we might have, you know, a couple extra songs, and that would be it.
At the same time, our label and our management was just, you know, having us rehearse 6 days a week, all day long, writing and rehearsing, and we weren't used to that kind of discipline because, you know, we were still liking, you know, screw around and waste half the day running around skateboarding instead of practicing when we were supposed to be. But we learned a lot of discipline from that experience is what happened in the end. And so that was really, really good learning experience for us. although we didn't know it at the time.
But I think because of that, we do have our probably most critically acclaimed album as far as reviews and everything, and the most polished record we've ever recorded. And to this day, you know, many people from so many different bands of multiple genres of music cite that as an influence of theirs. And I think it definitely put us on the map as far as a force to be reckoned with in not just the thrash community, but, you know, a hard rock community as well.
So we were getting pissed off because we just thought we were done writing. But luckily we weren't, because in the final batches came some of the really cool songs. I think Room with a View and Stagnant and Discontinued came toward the end, and those are 3 of my favorite songs off of Act 3. So yeah, we learned a lot. It was hard for us, but it was a great learning experience.
The ocean sound. You know, I'm sitting there like, you know, what is this? What is this? Death Angel? Oh, it sounds heavy. It looks kind of cool, you know. And then it's like, dun 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 dun. I was like, oh shit! Twisting on an endless seam, on our way to nowhere, oblivious to our destiny, slowly drifting on and on and on.
Yes.
Fuck.
Hey.
So let's get into it, man.
I
Death
just
Angel.
shat myself.
One of my all-time favorite songs here on Sirius XM Liquid Metal. Death Angel. Seemingly endless time.
Tour for that record was phenomenal. It went to Europe and States multiple times. It was us and Forbidden and Vicious Rumors on some of the gigs and Sanctuary opening some of the gigs, and it was just a phenomenal time. Like most of the places we sold, everywhere sold out, and it was kind of the peak of when thrash was peaking, and that was the last record we ever recorded before we disbanded.
The accident that happened while we were touring for Act 3, we had been touring, and this was like another leg of the States that we were doing. We were coming from a show in Arizona, heading to a show in Vegas, and that's when the accident happened.
Sometime around 5 in the morning, the driver of the vehicle fell asleep, and he overcorrected when he was going off the road, and got in a horrific accident. I believe the vehicle flipped twice and then slid on its side for some ridiculous amount, like 200 feet or something.
So this day, that was about the worst moment of my entire life, and I guess if anything, I'm lucky to not have had a moment as bad as that since then.
Andy got really, really badly injured. I got hurt, but everyone else got bruised, but I hurt a toe, but Andy got extremely badly injured.
Waking up to just flipping over and the whole sensation of it happening, and then when we finally came to a stop, and trying to figure out what had happened, and then inevitably discovering Andy, buried under all this shit, and it was just a really, really horrible scene.
And if anyone's ever been in a true state of shock, it's kind of like no drug you've ever been on. So you're kind of devoid of what's happening.
That's basically what it is that you just went into shock and stayed in shock for a while.
It's when the shock wore off hours later and we were at the hospital and stuck and knowing the rest of the tour was over and being in casinos and me on crutches and having seen Andy, his condition, not in a state of shock on the side of a freeway in the middle of the desert with no one coming by and no cell phones, and being stuck there.
They had to helicopter Andy into the hospital in Vegas, And we didn't know if we were going to see him alive again. Honestly, that was the freakiest thing.
When you finally get the reality of what's happening, I could just say emotionally the state for everyone was just severe confusion and fear and a sadness I've never known up to that point.
It's like you're in a movie, but it's happening in real life, and everything's just going in some weird dreamlike state, and it stayed that way for quite some time.
The most intense thing that ever happened to me, and everyone else involved as well.
Found out he was going to survive, but definitely not, be so okay at the time.
How come this band didn't explode and then, just hang out with them? We shared a tour bus with them and they told us their whole story about what happened, and it was like, with the accident and everything, I was like, oh, that'll do it.
Andy wasn't going to be able to play for a long time, and we were not about to replace him and just go on like that. That was not even an option to us. But it was an option for our label. Of course, they wanted us to get right back out, get another drummer, and just continue the tour, continue supporting the album. I guess, and now again, in retrospect, I can see their point, because they invested a lot in us, and I guess that's the normal thing to do. But it wasn't a normal thing to do for us.
I think I flew home the next day, and it was maybe 3-4 days later, I just decided I've had enough. I don't need this. I don't need this in my life. And I called the guys all one by one individually and told them over the phone that Death Angels ran its course for me. I'm done, and that's just how it is. I've made my mind up completely, so that's where my head is.
We refused to go back out on the road. We actually we did a handful of dates in Japan without Andy that we were already contracted to do, and we didn't want to do them, but somehow our management forced us to realize we had to do them. I don't know, we just got forced into it. So we did those shows, and Chris Contos filled in for Andy on drums, and he did a great job considering he had only a little bit of time to learn that kind of headlining set with us. But it killed us. We had no heart for that. Looking back and not seeing Andy on the drums, it just broke my heart and all of us, and it was a real sad time for us. We closed out that last show. I remember we just hit the last notes, went backstage, and just wept. We just sat there. The room was just silent. We were just weeping because we knew that was our final show. At that point, Mark had already said that he was done. He was going to quit and move to New York.
They really had no recourse because they knew they couldn't talk me out of it when my head was out. It was just a done deal. And to me, I still, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it all over again. Same way. I was done, and it needed to happen to me, and I think it actually needed to happen to the band, to tell you the truth.
After, all those years and all that work and everything we put into it and all the love that we had, just for it to end that way, it just really sucked for us. It was just, we did not, first of all, we never thought that the band was even going to end in the first place. Secondly, we had no idea they would go out in such a, non-fucking glorious way. So, yeah, really sucked. That whole part sucked. We talked about just forming a band with the four of us and starting from scratch, having a different name, different music, not playing any Death Angel songs. And that's what happened. We ended up forming a band called The Organization, and that's when I started to come back to life.
They went their way and I went mine, and I just thought that was it.
That was me and Andy and Dennis and Gus, and I was doing lead vocals and Andy was doing lead vocals. Not thrash at all, and it was deliberately a departure from Death Angel. So You know, when people would compare the two and whatever, to me there was no comparing, because we were trying to do something totally different. Of course we had, you know, there was metal in there because, you know, of course we loved metal still, but we were trying to get away from what we were doing before.
The organization is a whole new scene from Death Angel. It's the same members except for Mark, but it's a whole new book that we've started basically, and we closed the book on Death Angel, and that means playing the music, everything. It's like we got to just completely move on and put 100% into the O. So
we so much did not want to live in the shadow of Death Angel that we were like not allowing promoters to put like ex Death Angel or former members of that. Like, we just try to detach from the name completely.
Unsafe Unsane Recordings and Metal Blade putting the album out. Should be out hopefully by November, maybe October. Oh yeah, one room. Debut. Check it out.
Well, the first album was self-titled The Organization. The second album was titled Savor the Flavor. Till this day, I really have a soft spot for both of those albums. I really do love the songs and the music and everything we put into those albums, because like we do with every album that we've ever done and everything I've ever written or recorded on, just in that moment of time, it's just everything to you. So, I mean, we had put all our heart and soul in that band and on those two albums. We meant every word of it, and we meant every note of what we did. And it was a fun time because, again, we were kind of cut loose from the major label, we were cut loose from our management, and we were kind of our own guys doing it kind of, you know, DIY style. And we had formed our own label, and we were just doing everything ourselves, which worked against us in the end of the day because we didn't have enough power or experience to know what we were doing, but we tried.
This is the set list for the evening now.
Just opening up the past list. Short song, is that a new one?
After I think our last show, I think was at the Limelight in New York, and we were just, you know, struggling, especially after experiencing everything we did with Death Angel and coming to, you know, the height of the career with a major label. And, you know, on the Act 3 tour, the last tour we did before the leg where we had the accident, but the main leg of the Act 3 tour, we were going out. I mean, we had, our band had our bus, our crew had their own tour bus, and we had a semi carrying our equipment with the entire front of house, our whole PA system, I mean, the works. And so going from that to all the way back from scratch to the punk rock level of touring in a van with the organization, in the beginning it was fun and exciting. Just really disheartening after all the work, and we just realized we were we couldn't do it anymore. There was nothing, there was no money, everybody had we couldn't leave our jobs anymore, and so we just had to go home and pick up the pieces. So we went home, the O disbanded, Mark moved back from New York, so he got a hold of me just to get back in touch and hang out and stuff. So we got in touch, it had been years, and of course we hit it off immediately because me and Mark just vibe out like that.
I started to play in a band called Swarm with Rob. It was more a rock project.
with Michael Isaiah on bass, me on guitar, Mark on vocals, and Andy on drums. We actually recorded a demo at Kirk's studio, Kirk Hammett's home studio in San Francisco. So he again somewhat produced another demo of ours.
At the tail end of that, which, I mean, we're fast forwarding years. This is hitting like 2000 by this point, you know. I mean, this band called Swarm. And we did, you know, put out a couple independent EPs and toured the States with Jerry Cantrell and his solo stuff.
And we did a few U.S. tours with him, at least 2, if not 3 runs of the States. Pretty long, extensive tours.
Then we got the information that Chuck Billy had been diagnosed with cancer, and they're putting together this large benefit in San Francisco.
And then we got the call to do the Thrash of the Titans show, which was the benefit. Chuck Billy and Chuck from Death.
Jesus, when did we break up? 90 to... Yeah, throughout that, like, 11 years we've broken up. I got approached a couple times at points throughout that decade asking, you know, I think twice by the band if, you know, I was interested in, you know, trying to give it a shot. And both times I turned it down flatly, completely.
I truly did believe that Death Angel would never get back together. When we said we were never getting back together, we weren't bullshitting. Really, because it was so deep of a thing to us. It was, you know, it was a family affair. It was much more than just music. It was totally our lives. I mean, it was just what we grew up with, and it was so special to us and so deep to us. In the way that we had to come to an end, we just thought that just the right thing to do was just to stay permanently done. You know, just not try to, we just thought that we could never recapture the magic that we had.
Thrash of the Titans, when I first heard about that show, you know, how they were getting all the Bay Area bands back together.
Death Angel, Forbidden, Exodus, Violence, I mean, everybody that was in our scene, I wanted from the Bay Area to be there. And on top of it, you know, it'd be nice to get like an Anthrax and SOD, and, you know, I started naming all these bands.
I was really excited, and I didn't hear Death Angel was performing because I've heard through the grapevine, like, you know, knowing Rob and Andy and Dan and all those guys, that it's never gonna happen.
We got approached, all these bands were reforming and people were flying out to do this show and bands were playing, and, you know, we did, and we all sat down and talked and thought, you know, if we're ever gonna do it, this is to be the reason to do it.
Mark telling me they had offers from promoters and all these other offers from other people to do shows and get back together, and they've always turned it down. So having to hear that they were gonna do Thrash of the Titans was like, holy shit, this is gonna be like the icing on the cake for that show.
I ended up on the phone with Chuck. He asked me personally that it would be a big favor for him, and, you know, at that point that really sunk deep into my heart, and, you know, that hit home in a big way. And then at that point, Andy had been hearing about it, and he was into it. You know, he was telling me, you know, let's do it, you know, for that. And so it made sense, and I couldn't believe that we were saying the words, but we were saying, all right, let's do it.
I just remember, you know, calling, asking, you know, would you guys want to get back together? And I know at first there was all the first reactions were, well, I don't know, you know, I don't know, you know, and I think that's what every band's reaction was. But I think after they thought about it and kind of rumors spreading that all these other bands were doing it, I mean, even brought Testament back together. We were broken up for 14 years.
Mark was into it, Dennis was into it. It was just Gus, who had been out of the picture for a long time, and I think at that point in time, Gus was actually even living in the Philippines. I already knew that it was just gonna be way too far of a stretch for Gus at that point, and it was. But the cool thing was Gus totally gave his blessings, and I already had, you know, Ted was already in mind.
I remember that time, I mean, I was at work. I was working at some women's handbag company, and I got a call from Rob.
We already knew we were gonna ask Ted if Gus wasn't gonna be into it, and we knew Ted was gonna rise to the challenge.
And when Rob called, you know, he told me, hey, we're reforming for the show, and I was so stoked for him. I was like, dude, that's gonna be badass. I'm looking forward to checking you guys out. And he actually told me, you know what, I'm actually calling you to see if you wanna get up and play with us.
Didn't take him but 3 seconds to think about it and accept.
I told Rob, fuck yeah, dude, I'm into it.
And so it was set.
As soon as I hung up the phone, the first person I called was my wife. Dude, Rob called me, he wants me to jam with him, Death Angel, fucking Thrash the Titans.
But it was kind of weird. It definitely wasn't easy for us because we were on the road with Cantrell, and when we were gonna come home from that tour, we were gonna have 3 days, and then Thrash the Titans was happening.
After I got off the phone with him, that night, I met up with Rob at Swarm's rehearsal studio out in San Francisco with my guitar and amp, and we just ran through a few songs. Those guys left on tour with Swarm for like a month and a half or something.
And so we were on tour rehearsing, you know, playing to the CDs and just practicing and trying to do any little bits at sound check with me and Andy and Mark that we could.
For that month and a half, all I did was listen, practice Death Angel to the point where I was fucking getting sick and tired of listening to those songs, but I had to.
Meanwhile, Dennis and Ted are doing their homework at home with their CDs and headphones.
I think Dan had a lot of things going on, so I was just, okay man, I have the set list. I gotta learn it, I gotta figure it out. So when it came down where everyone had time to get together, it was 2 days before the Thrash of the Titans.
We came home, did 2 rehearsals, fucking hit the stage.
And I'll tell you, man, I was nervous as a motherfucker, dude. I almost shit in my pants.
We were only gonna do that, and at that time, that, you know, we had said that we're doing this just for that show. That was it. That was the only performance we were gonna do, just to keep it real, and we had no other intentions. So, funny enough, right before we started that set, I remember stepping up to the mic, and you know, everyone had chills up and down the back of their spine, and we were just nervous, excited, every fucking emotion you get. The crowd was raging, roaring. We walk out there, I'm looking across the stage and seeing Dennis on stage and Mark up there, and we're Death Angel again, and it's been 11 years, and it was fucking surreal. And I walked up to the mic and I just said, "Get this fucking shit over here." And we went into the set, and funny enough, that thing has never gotten over with yet.
I'm glad he said that, because at that point I was probably thinking the same thing too, like, holy shit, man, let's get this over with so my nervousness will just be done.
Within 45 seconds, I was hooked.
Fuck, man, I was nervous. Fuck, man, they had 2 rehearsals and a big show.
And it's been over 10 years since that moment, and that's the ironic thing. But it was killer, man. The crowd went off, we went off. It just, all the old feelings came, the old good feelings came rushing back, and it was definitely a feeling like no other.
And I knew I missed it, you know, beyond my wildest dreams, but I never felt that way while it wasn't together. Not one bit.
Looks like it's been a little too long seeing you motherfuckers!
And I'd have to say it was fucking unbelievable, totally unexpected, and absolutely amazing.
One of the best highlights in my life as a musician, having to play in Death Angel and play as the first show back as Death Angel after they broke up. It was killer. And I guess after that show, everything started to snowball. I mean, everyone was stoked. I could see it in everyone's eyes. Mark's eyes, Andy's, Dan's, Rob's, everyone was just excited. And at that point, I was like, okay, I just did this one show, just whatever, let's just move forth. And things started rolling after that. Let's do another show, let's do a tour of Europe, let's do this, let's do that. And all of a sudden, we signed a Nuclear Blast. And here we are today.
I had to go get cancer, to bring Death Angel back. See how much I love you guys, man. I go to the ends of the earth.
I like everything about Ted. Ted is one of these people that is a fucking invaluable person on your team. I'm not just saying that because he's downstairs.
He's easygoing. He's easygoing, but yet productive.
Okay, another thing about Ted, he's sober. He's very sober, and that's very helpful. We just make a great team in all kinds of ways because he's kind of like the opposite of me. So we're like two sides of the coin that mesh together to make a good coin.
He's just got a great attitude.
Ted's quiet, I'm loud.
And he lets things bounce off him.
Ted's got a fucking incredible memory. My memory almost doesn't exist.
He's a great guy. He's got a great vision of how he sees this band.
I play Jackson, he plays ESP.
And for people who don't know Death Angel anything but pictures, they just assumed he was an original member because he was Filipino.
Ted's early, I'm late as fuck. Ted's fast, I'm slow.
I'll tell you one thing. They never said I was in the band. At this point, I'm still waiting for Rob or Mark to say, you know what, dude, you're in the band. All I know is I got the call, we're doing this tour, we're doing that tour, and all of a sudden we're gonna sign a Nuclear Blast, we're gonna do a record, and I'm waiting. I'm waiting for my contract, man.
We sign to Nuclear Blast, we start writing for the first comeback record.
They instilled the confidence in us that we could write new material and put out another album and have another life as Death Angel in the present, not just playing the old songs.
Technology had come so far since we recorded even Act 3 in that over a decade. Recording was just, it was wild what studios even look like nowadays.
The Art of Dying is the album that Death Angel created and put out after we reformed.
To get to see Death Angel write a record, because I've been a fan for the first 3 albums, and to have to actually be in a rehearsal room with the 4 originals writing a record was a great experience, having to see how it all came together.
We've all grown entirely as musicians, and at least got some of the curiosity of, I wish I could play this music when we were under the cage of thrash metal in the 80s, so we thought.
I never recorded an album, and I've done a lot of demos, and having to see how every band, working with a producer, working with individuals in the studio, and seeing everything come together it was a tough experience, but a great experience.
I think for what we accomplished on The Art of Dying, we did exactly what we set out to do as far as getting our foot back in the door, garnering a lot of respect from the press and fans, and getting to have new product to tour under.
It basically does reflect on where we are exactly at. You can hear us discovering each other again in that album, but out of it came some really killer shit and also some kind of mixed up shit, but that's how it goes when you're making a record.
To me, that's expected. I mean, we haven't written together in 13 years, but the tour for the Art of Dying was wonderful.
It's a whole different monster, having, first time to go out on a real tour in Europe, playing these big festivals. It was just a phenomenal experience, and I still have that same giddy feeling today as I did back then.
After The Art of Dying, that's when people started having children in the band. So you put out one record, we tour for it pretty extensively, and then all of a sudden the band takes a 2-year hiatus.
Andy had a kid, Dennis had a kid, I was about to have a kid, and these guys were getting ready to have their second kids. And so everything was getting complicated with having kids and trying to deal with this band and, the schedule we were keeping. It was getting things were getting difficult.
You're raising a kid, and who am I to tell you that, you know, the next record I play on is more important than you raising your kid? You know, it doesn't work that way.
It was the mixture of the darkness, of the complications of things going on at home, but the happiness of, you know, the good things that are happening for the band. So that's always a weird, bittersweet feeling, because things that are happening good for the band is not really good news at home, because what that means is, you know, bye-bye daddy for long periods of time. So that was getting to be painful for 3/5 of the band.
So people have their priorities. People are, you know, having children and need time off and can't tour as much. And, you know, Andy moved out of the state. Andy moved to like Arizona or something for a while. And so all of a sudden, you know, after a 13-year hiatus, we write a record, we record a record, we tour, and then all of a sudden we're on a hiatus again. Which, unfortunately for me, who has no children, am on a hiatus.
Now we wanted to definitely take it further. We had been together for a while now. We felt like a normal band again. We felt tight and comfortable with each other and where we were at in our place in the scene.
After everyone gets their, you know, kids, I guess, to where they think they should be before we can start writing again, we start writing for the next record.
So now we had a lot more confidence going into the next album.
We then, once we started demoing the songs, were searching for producers and yet to find one. And we were fortunate enough to hook up via Danko Jones, Nick Raskulinecz.
Produced a lot of killer albums that we really love. And the Studio 606, was the studio in Los Angeles that he owned with Dave Grohl, the Foo Fighters.
Nick ended up being a huge Death Angel fan. Loved Act 3, loved the early stuff. Said whatever we need to do to make this happen, I want to make it happen because I want to work with Death Angel, which was phenomenal for us.
With that, we kind of got this real, you know, inspiration that we're going to do this record, this great, amazing studio.
Killing Season we knew was going to be a much more aggressive album than the Art of Dying, and a lot more, we knew we wanted it to be a lot more concise.
We went down there and it was even fucking more amazing than we thought. It was fucking incredible studio, incredible room, multiple rooms. Not only that, but you're walking down all the hallways and just nothing but every multi-platinum fucking plaque of the Foo Fighters, Nirvana, Queens of the Stone Age, Tenacious D. I mean, you're in the company of all this fucking success and just really fucking killer music that had been recorded and put out.
We recorded it down there and it got really, you know, got really good reviews, better reviews than Art of Dying, and outsold Art of Dying, and then we toured for that record and, you know, did quite a bit, you know, toured pretty extensively for that record.
Touring. Like I said, this you know, the family stuff was going on underneath all the touring, and we were trying to maintain. It was just getting rough. It was just getting rough for everybody, and you know, we weren't making any money. Still, we're this far into our careers. You know, no one's getting any younger, and we're not making any money. We're still, actually going in debt for the love of music. And then it's getting really fucked up when you're going in debt and bringing your family into it with you.
We started getting like stipulations, like, well, I can't take this tour because I can't be away for 4 weeks. I can maybe be away for 3 weeks, but I can't be away for 3 weeks until this time. Things like that, because they're trying to juggle family and a band, which is a very hard thing to do, especially if you're not a major band. You're not making this massive money that top 20 artists are making. You're out there slugging it away and hoping you can sell shirts.
There's a lot of different circumstances, but that's, truth be told, that's just the reality of what led to eventually the next formation of our band, next lineup change, with Dennis leaving the band first, and then Andy.
I think both Dennis and Andy took it as far as they could take it, and they had to go. It happened at different times, but within the same year, and for the same reasons.
Of course, there's definitely truth to the fact that there was musical differences going on. That's for sure. Den's a punk rocker and he loves punk. He's a metalhead at heart from the beginning, but he definitely evolved into loving punk rock, and he wasn't really feeling it for the metal scene. That was very obvious by that point. And then Andy, he'd go back and forth a bit too. He fucking loves metal, but at the same time he loves a lot of straightforward rock, just straight up rock, which we love too, but he really wanted to push a lot more straightforward kind of songs and styles and beats and stuff into Death Angel and what we were doing. And he's one of the he was one of the main songwriters and main voice in the band. It affected their attitudes on the road as well, and it was just caused a lot of tension between the bands, unnecessary tension. I'm sure probably caused them a lot of tension at home as well. So it wasn't fair to the band or their families or even to themselves. So the band, one by one, they each, part left, said they were going to leave the band. It was really on the edge at that point. After Andy left, Mark and I had to sit there and really ask ourselves if it was going to be worth it to try to keep on going, because again, we didn't want to be one of these just some band that's just trying to exist when you ought to just fucking pack it up. And we just had to realize that we were not ready to stop playing. Just for a count of two, huh?
What's going on? Focus on him.
The first one that had been...
That goes back into the Tom thing after?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Just the pause of the part where you used to go dong, dong, dong.
Yeah.
If we extend that so it just pops out more. It like have to be unnaturally longer than the
that's cool.
Than the two, like the maybe just four. Yeah, like it just like overhang, like it'll trip out of the beat because it's two. Like the whole four section doesn't get completed.
Totally.
But it might be kind of cool. It's very important to go from two. Did you hear the difference? let me show you again. One goes, and then like the other one goes. Can you see the difference?
I could hear the difference.
Why are you filming when I smoke weed?
Losing members is tough alone, but losing 2 original members is really like, you know, and I was sitting there going, okay, man, we lost Andy and Dan. I think this band's done. I think it's gonna break up. And Rob and Mark talked about it, and I remember getting a call from Rob and Mark saying, dude, we're gonna move forth, we're gonna keep going, we're not stopping. So Will came in the picture.
Looking for Will Carroll. Where the hell is Will Carroll? Ah, there he is, fucker! I'm giving you this.
Oh shit! I used to have one of these, dude.
Hang on,
I used to have one of those.
Hang on, I'm gonna tell you a story. This is 24 karat gold. I got it off eBay. Right?
Uh-huh.
You know why I bought it?
You like what we ran of the band?
Yes, sir.
Spirit, we bring Will everywhere, especially places you have to dress nice. And we only bring him in spirit.
Like they always dump me with the person that's not gonna be working with us very long. There's good times ahead.
Will Carroll. Will Carroll. Now he is in another way an opposite of Ted and me in different ways. Well, Will's an Will's the opposite of everybody because Will is just Will.
What the fuck are you doing? Somebody get me a doctor!
Will Carroll, San Francisco institution. If you've ever been to San Francisco and you know metal, Will Carroll's been playing in bands. I mean, ironically enough, with Ted was his first bands.
Tom.
The scene, the bands, the bars, you know Will.
The band has a great work ethic, which is something I need in my life. Are people with good work ethics because I like to lay around.
He's a powerhouse drummer, but you know Andy was a monster drummer too. But they have a different style, and Will's much more of a thrash metal drummer, much more of a double bass player.
I mean, I guess that's why they wanted me in the band. They wanted to go in that direction. So you know, like I was stoked that that's the direction they were going in because I'm suited for that. Like I like to play metal and thrash metal.
Will's a one-of-a-kind, original, freakazoid of a guy that fucking, don't take this the wrong way, Will, but just doesn't grow up.
What did you say to me?
You'll have me throw it up on tape, huh?
Now,
It's gonna happen, maybe today. Maybe in 5 minutes.
Come on!
And there's no way this is making it on the movie, bitch. I'm on the road all the time. That's something I wanted to do my whole life. It's tour, and I play music for a living, and you know, just make that my focal point in life. And as long as I keep doing that, it keeps me out of trouble. So the DA is keeping me out of jail. No.
So the moment he walked in the door rehearsing with us to what he is now, He is a completely different drummer than when he even walked in to rehearse with us the first time. He is grown into such an incredible drummer.
I really, really love hanging out with Will, you know, at the end of the nights after shows. A lot of the times it's me and Will are the last guys up just drinking and listening to fucking Zeppelin or something and just like air drumming and fucking air guitaring every lick and every note and just pointing. I'm pointing out drum stuff to him, he's pointing out guitar stuff to me, and we have this just fucking really cool chemistry between us. That really works well in a musical situation.
He is a joy, an absolute joy to be on the road with, because he's absolutely hilarious, very social, and like a fun, loving guy.
No.
At the time, we had a bass player, Sammy Diosdado,
who was in my side project during the hiatus after Art of Dying between killing season.
He came in to help us out for a few tours and whatnot, and he was in the band, but we started writing Relentless with Will and Sammy. Then Sammy left and Damien came in.
Oh, I first joined the band. I guess there wasn't like a doorway I crossed through where it was like non-member, member. It just happened that I got to know the guys a little bit better. They had tried out another bass player, or they were going with another bass player, and for whatever reasons it wasn't working out.
He was my initial one who I thought was going to get the gig immediately after Dennis.
Damien is, you know, the newest member and the baby of the band, but at the same time he's got an old soul.
You know, he was my initial thought. A lot of times you should just go with your gut.
Hey, we got a show, do you want to come play with us? So like, of course, I'm like, well yeah, where is it? And they said in Eindhoven, Holland.
Damien got in there. Damien knew, already knew some of the early stuff, and then within a week he knew stuff off multiple albums and the newer songs we were already writing for, what would soon become Relentless Retribution.
What's really cool about Damien's dynamic with the band, and especially on tour, is Damien is he's actually really to himself. And he just loves to fucking play the bass. And I have no problem with that.
Phenomenal bassist, just simple.
Him and I are like probably the polar opposites, well, not probably, we are the polar opposites in the band. So, to be quite honest, like the time we spend on stage is probably the most time we spend together on tour or behind the scenes. Like, he likes to work out, and I like to eat pizza and read comic books, and so like that kind of doesn't work out together. Like, unless I'm jogging with him, reading and eating a pizza, that's not going to happen.
Probably the most well-schooled musician in our band.
And he just that dude will just play for hours, all day long. This guy just loves to work out and play bass. I'm just like, dude, you're gonna play 4 hours, and then we're gonna play our hour and 45-minute set, and then you're gonna play again after the show. Maybe you ought to give it a break.
I sleep a lot, so I'll sleep all day till about 5, and when I wake up, he's already ran 3 miles around the city of Leningrad. I don't know. he's found some lost Boy Scouts in a forest, and he helped them out, and then ran back to the venue. But he's always off, doing his own thing, and I'm usually sleeping. So if you ever need to find me, you know where to find me. I'm sleeping.
Got this on stage, this abounding energy. So from start to finish, he's on fire, and he truly is just musicianship's just incredible, amazing stage presence, and a really an easygoing guy, and just likes to a lot of times just likes to just wants to jam, man. And if you just want to jam, it's good that you're a musician.
He's the newest guy in the band, and I've known him the least amount of time. I knew Will a lot longer. I knew Will from back in the old school when we were kids, but I didn't know Damien back then, so I'm still discovering Damien, and he's still discovering me. But fucking awesome, man. We have a fucking solid lineup. It's fucking great.
I guess that was my introduction.
So we moved to an entirely different rehearsal studio, but with us, it was a way to wipe the slate clean. We're like, new lineup, new record, let's fucking get the hell out of this room, go to a new room, and start anew. And then we started writing in the new rehearsal studio.
When we started doing the songs for Relentless Retribution, I knew that we had to take a different path than what we'd done in the past, just mainly for the fact that we had a different rhythm section.
The music that was coming together was really heavy. It was really intense. I mean, at that point, we had a lot to prove. Mainly Rob and Mark had a lot to prove, considering, you know, can they still do this, you know, without everyone else? But when Rob started writing these riffs and starting coming together, it was like, holy shit, this is really fast and this is heavy.
I knew that when we got together that the sound was going to be heavier right off the bat, because I know Will's style of drumming. I know like what his strengths are.
A lot more like just a lot more teeth to the music compared to the last couple releases, and just like a kick in the ass all of a sudden, like a shot of adrenaline in Rob's arm. Like he was just writing more like chicka 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 chicka, just more like straight up metal riffs, you know, or thrash metal riffs.
We knew for this record, writing it, that Rob would have to write all the riffs, just hands down, for it to sound like a Death Angel record.
And I wasn't into the idea of trying to recreate the same thing we did before, just with different people, or try to replace them, fill their shoes, whatever, try to, you know, just put people in place of Andy and Den and keep the same kind of thing going. We had to just take it to what direction it was going to be with these guys' playing style.
Rob had a lot of aggression to let out, and at the same time, Will came in and he's more of a metal drummer, so having to see what Will could do, playing fast double bass, doing all this fast thrash beats and crazy thrash drumming, Rob kind of fed off that and kind of wrote, in a sense, towards Will's writing. So when the music started coming together, it was like, holy shit, this is heavy and fast.
That's exactly what we did, and what ended up happening was we just ended up going in kind of a more, I think just a more aggressive and heavier, just a heavier direction and more metal. Because that's where these guys fucking love thrash and they love metal. And Will is a total thrash drummer. And, you know, and Damien being such an amazing musician that he is, I knew that we had a lot of options and possibilities for bass with him, because he had the talent to just write a lot of different types of, he just fucking knows a lot of musical shit.
I knew that the songs were going to be tailored around that style of pounding drumming, of just aggressive, you know, brutal, beastly drums.
More menacing, yeah, definitely more metal.
Once I started to see, you know, get used to the style of their playing, then I just started to try to write the songs that went in that direction, that fit with these guys' playing style, and I think it really worked out.
When these songs came together, it was very obvious right away, like, oh, you got that riff? Dude, you need this. This is what you need right there.
Yeah, I was really stoked when Rob started showing me the riffs and the songs. I was like, hey, I can do this, man. Let's make an album.
I'm having a hard time starting the song off for some reason. That's trippy. I can do it on my own, but whenever I count it off, I freeze up.
You were doing it normal all the way up until like yesterday.
I know. It's strange.
Are you doing something different?
No, it's just like a mental thing.
Because now it seems like yeah, right?
Yeah. See, that was a little off, right?
What's happening here? Yeah, they're all hitting at the same time.
Yeah.
Check it.
1, 2.
Well, you know, Sunday and all. And now, part of the movie called Impressions of Sukov. No.
Jason Sukoff is just some crippled dude who lives out in Florida.
My first impression was he was hilarious and we were going to get along well.
Jason Sukoff of Audio Hammer Studios.
Who is Jason Sukoff? Guy who gets thrown out of Anthrax's dressing room. That's who he is.
He came to show a couple shows of ours in Florida. One he actually, you know, didn't get kicked out of. How's that?
I need everyone to know that 1,300 years ago, before testicles were invented, there were moons. Moons.
I thought he was a goofy ass motherfucker, man. Tell you the truth.
Well, I had spoke to him on the phone. We were talking about doing the album and stuff, so we were, you know, in communication over the phone. But that cannot prepare you for meeting Jason in real life.
Rob was teaching guitar lessons, and a student of his brought in a tape by a band called August Burns Red to learn the stuff.
It was like, whoa, man, the thing with the that, and then something with like the riffs, and he was into it, and you know, he wanted to know who recorded it, and I guess that was me. And that was cool because of course I've heard of Death Angel since I was like 10, which is probably the only band that I'll ever get to work with that I've heard of since I was 10, which I completely back because that never happens.
I went out there first by myself for the first couple days to do the initial scratch guitar tracking with Jason before the rest of the guys came out. So I get over to Jason's and yeah.
I'm a Josephine, I live inside a magic Jewish land. When I'm shooting, I listen for the people understand. When I'm looking at my nipples, I will never get away from the people inside my face tonight.
Rob already had forewarned me that he was an absolute madman.
Don't blame the dildos!
I think after the first couple hours of meeting Jason, I was calling Mark. Let me step outside for a minute. I gotta make a phone call. I think I was calling Mark going,
dude, I don't know about these guys, man. I don't know about these guys.
They told me right away that he was a weirdo. That was the first thing they said, like, whoa, he's a weirdo, they said he's a freak.
I heard Jodie Foster's like waiting to go into D-side shows and hanging out with Obituary.
We're gonna make a record today or what, dude?
We were. Now we're gonna start a catering company. And Will's gonna make the sandwiches. This dude over here is gonna be he's gonna be on Expo. And you're doing dishes, bitch.
That's right, dude.
And Mark's the hostess. They wanted to be themselves, but they wanted to be now, and you know, they want, you know, it's like, I don't think they really wanted to change anything about themselves. Oh, whoops. Like a heavier version of them. That was what I wanted to do, but you know, like maintain the whole thing that they've been doing forever. You know, the one thing I like about going to Sears is they carry Craftsman, but they don't fuck around with any of that fucking Toro shit. I hate Toro. I'm just kidding, dude.
do I look like Carlton the doorman to you?
You look like fucking Flippenstein the fucking hermaphrodite.
Realizing that was just his personality and that was also part of his strategy, and I came to like where he was coming from. But initially, I just didn't think he was serious enough to work on music. But then that's because I'm overly serious working on music, so that's what it was.
Hey man, what's going on? Yeah, you totally gotta check out the session. We're totally in session right now. Here, check it out.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure if it was gonna work out because, like, you know, I'm sarcastic too, and if someone likes to talk shit, I talk shit 10 times back. But I quickly got accustomed to his sense of humor, like within the first night.
Then you got Lebowski. Ha! Beastman, dude. Beastman is he's an entity all into his own because he's got that fucking beard. It's like he's just like. And it makes my life better just knowing that he exists.
I hope he doesn't get too upset when he sees my beard's been cropped off, but it'll grow back, Jason. It'll grow back.
He looks more like a Harry than a Will. You know what I'm saying? Like he's actually Harry Willman or Billman.
What the hell are you talking about? I mean, I don't have too much experience recording albums. You know, I've done tons of demos and tons of like independent albums and stuff, but like with a real budget and stuff, this is my first time, and he knew this was my first time, so I don't think he quite knew what to expect of me. He was like, oh, this is his first real album, first time recording to it. Click track.
I'm sure I must have pissed him off somehow, but he didn't really show it, being the sweetheart that he is.
On the last one. Not the second or the third or the first. The last last one, Tetro. The last one. Okay, so let's hear it. Who's your favorite Scandinavian? No time. Yeah? No? Okay. I'll stop it if it's... how about this? I'll stop it if it's bad. Okay. I promise.
He definitely pissed me off, and we butted heads on certain things.
Okay. Okay, come on.
Just solution, there's no other way. Haunted by your actions of what you have yet to pay. Gossip is a filth that just spew out of their mouth. Bones burning cold, now that you have been knocked out, hey. Egotism, disillusion, can you see the end? Seditious to your family and seditious to your friends. Tears of joy shed on the day that you were born. On the day you'll die, there'll be no one there to mourn. And I thought by now you learned. But now it is your turn. Shattered choices, adulting forces, you have paved your way. Strike another lady lover, still now shall stay. Embezzled money, coward phony, you have brought this hate. Brought this hate.
You're talking about the second. No. That is supposed to go all the way through.
So I'm saying, it drops out. It's odd. Like,
Hey, do you? No. I think on the other track, yeah, that.
that's where it is. Oh, that's right. That's when it takes place back. Right. It comes in instead of that. Right.
Domination, deviation, start another war. Brothers stay and fight as you flee on the back down. Isolation, desolation, mercy I will lack. Cherishing the day I lay your blood on your back. Blood on your back.
Take it, those.
I can't believe when your
Sister gave me a lover into the inside of a
You know, we saw eye to eye on most things. If anything, there was never a butting of heads. It was just he would push for more screamy attack, and I would try to push for more melodic. And, you know, we'd find a happy medium between the two.
You know what? And here's another fucking thing. How can I be wrong when I'm the guy who wrote it?
I ask that question to myself all the time.
Dude, I ain't wrong. I wrote it. You're wrong. It's flat. No, it might be sharp, but I wrote it sharp.
But like, I think they stayed the way that they always were, and that's why the fans like them, is because they're not doing the stuff that everyone else is doing now, and they sound like they've always sounded, and there's no reason for them to change because they did it first anyway. I'm trying to say, whoever's listening to the stuff that Rob was influenced by then, now, it'd probably be pretty special if they were listening to that now at the young age that they are. They'd have to be influenced by their parents, or they could have discovered it on YouTube or something like that. But I guess it's easier to discover stuff now than it was back then, because I know back when I was growing up listening to metal, I had to drive 45 minutes out to Enfield to the music outlet, and it was like going on a field trip. It was awesome. It's like, go look at metal CDs and it'd be like the best day ever. Now you just like, open up your computer and it's over. There's no adventure. No adventure.
I got into the sort of Bay Area thrash stuff through my dad more than anything, because he'd seen Exodus like 15 years ago and Testament and all that when they were still sort of playing clubs and stuff. So I found like his collection of tapes and CDs and stuff. And I think like one of the first one must have been like Exodus or something, and then I moved into Testament and then later Death Angel, and sort of getting into the more thrash side of things.
I think we're going to experiment more with basses on this next album. I think we're going to try more than the Rickenbacker. I think we're going to try the Zahn bass, because I know he's got the Zahn. And, we'll try my Nez, and we'll try the Warwick. I'm going to force him to use the Warwick. I don't care what he says. Who the fuck is he? He's the bass player, bro. He'll use what the fuck I tell him to use. And then he'll fucking shave his mustache, and we'll have dinner together. It'll be weird. And we'll fucking get some fancy fucking asparagus that's like way too big for like whatever entree we're having it with. When you get those giant fucking asparagus thingies, and they're like, you're like, I don't want this. I just wanted to.
Okay. Truth. I mean, when I first heard that, I'm like, fuck, dude. I mean, he's been bugging Rob. I want to do a solo on your record, dude. Let me do a solo. Come on, man. Let me do a solo.
Him and Rob do this trade-off solo.
Let me do a solo, dude.
It's him on the album. It's, he does a solo, I do a solo, he does a solo, I do a solo, then we do it together at the end of harmony solo, and I fucking love that part.
Jodie Foster's a vivid fucking Cryptopsy fan. The end. Is vivid the right word? I don't think it is. Is it livid? No. She likes Cryptopsy though.
That's who the fuck Jason Sukoff is. A phenomenal guitar player, phenomenal singer, but a demented motherfucker.
He knows exactly what he's doing when he's in his studio. He knows exactly what he's doing behind that board, and he's got an incredible ear. And I consider him a dear friend, and someone whose opinion musically I trust a lot and value. But he's nuts.
As much as it's grueling and it's kind of. It's tougher than it may seem on the outside, especially when you're going for a really long time. But at the same time, we wouldn't want to do anything else. So we just consider ourselves lucky and blessed to have this kind of lifestyle.
I mean, it's the busiest since I've been in the band, and from hearing Rob and Mark talk about it, it's the busiest since the 80s. We probably did more touring ever, and we're excited about that.
Playing heavy metal every fucking night, man. It's awesome, dude. And the only cons could be maybe like some of our schedules have been a little grueling, like 24 shows in a row or something.
Really, before I joined Death Angel, I had hardly left California, really, at all. I'd seen Nevada, I'd seen part of Baja California. I'd made it as far as to Texas. But other than that, I mean, you know, my ability to roam outside California was pretty limited because I always had to hold down a job.
We can't just be a band like this in this time and era and not tour, you know, dare I say, relentlessly. The people we have in the band and the lineup we have right now are just hungry, and we're getting out and we're, you know, whooping ass every night on stage.
You want to see some crazy shit? I'll take my hair off. Hey, Mark. Oh my God.
On the day off from our second leg of our Relentless World Tour. Day off, tomorrow Denver, and some of us decide to bowl. We're going to be playing against each other. Bowling should be fun. Haven't bowled since we had a day off in Fort Stockton, Texas on the Soil Work Tour. Me and Will went bowling, but now we got Mark and Rob and our film guy Tommy Jones to bowl with us, so it should be fun.
They come up on stage, you hit them.
That's the new motto. Fuck the fans, dude. We don't need any fucking fans. We don't need no fans.
We don't need them, dude.
We play music only for ourselves and for artistic reality.
Yeah, if they don't show up, then fuck them.
Fuck them. It's their fucking loss.
People who show up are cool.
We jam for the
They
jam.
understand the whole artistic part of it.
You see at sound check, we still jam the same.
Yeah, we still jam when no one's there. Just our crew.
Half the time, these fucking fans get in the way.
Dude, we get pissed when people show up.
They start yelling while we're trying to play. They're yelling out of timing. We're trying to fucking thing. Bullshit, man.
They expect picks. How are we gonna play without picks?
Fucking rude. I need to smoke weed right now to handle this situation.
Totally, dude. Totally.
So stressed.
Dude, they make us sweat for no reason. When we jam, we don't sweat.
Sound check is way easier, man.
Way easier.
It's completely rude how these people come in and start yelling and yelling while we're playing. And they're not even watching. They're jumping around. They jump on each other. They jump off stage. They thrash into a circle.
Not only that, why do they buy our CD and ask us to sign it? I don't get that. Just listen to the fucking music.
Listen to it, dude. You destroy the artwork with putting the fucking signature all across the lyrics and all that fucking.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
And they yell out songs we don't feel like playing.
I don't get it, dude.
No, I don't either. Fuck that, dude. We're gonna go fucking Watain and Gorgoroth on them motherfuckers. And Satyricon too. Fuck them!
fucking Mark Osegueda. And we're from Dark Angel.
Weird, because we did some touring pre-Relentless release and post.
But that's not really a fair question because we came off the road for the previous album and there wasn't really a break. I think since about like 2010, I've more or less been on the road the whole time.
We started recording the record in March, and all of a sudden we decided to take a break and do some shows. So we started, we were in the recording studio all of March. We started touring. Beginning of April, we did a 2-week run and did some festival in Norway. Did a run of the UK.
There was a baton pass between one tour and the other, but there was an actual stop and a new gun start.
Before the album, during the making of the album, in the middle of recording the album, we took a break and went and toured Europe for a couple of weeks.
And did it with a festival in Sweden, Sweden Rock Cruise.
Came back and continued recording.
And we did a couple of shows for Scion, Atlanta, and Los Angeles. Then right after the Los Angeles show, Mark and Rob flew back to Florida to finish recording.
Then went right back on tour again before the album even came out.
We went back on the road in Europe. We did 2 weeks. We did the Metal Fest in Europe, a couple of weeks there. Then when we came back, we started mixing the record. And as soon as the record was done mixing, we did 2 more festivals out in Sweden. We did Sweden Rock Festival, and we did Sauna Open Air in Finland.
I felt on fire, I felt hungry, and I felt adamant that I had something to prove.
And right after that, we came home, mastered the record, and as soon as that mastering was done, we hit the road again with Soilwork. We did a North American run with Soilwork.
I think they're amazing live. I mean, you should definitely see them live. I would rather see them live than listening to their albums, because that's when it's really coming together. Like, the intensity is just insane.
And at the time, we started to promote the Relentless record. We did 1 song off Relentless. We did River of Rapture.
River of Rapture, we were playing on tour in the States. We were touring with Soilwork, and that's where Tommy made the video from the live performances of River of Rapture, and the album wasn't even out yet. And we're on tour when the album came out.
So I don't even remember what tour we were on. I think we were in South America when it came out, because we were in South America in October, and it came out in September.
Creator, Exodus, Us, and Suicidal Angels. I think that's the first tour we did after the album came out. Like, no, I'm wrong, huh? I knew it. I have no idea where it started.
I think we were in Europe, but we might have been in South America, or Southeast Asia, or North America. These are Ted questions.
That's a good question. That's one for Ted. I don't even know where we started the tour.
We were either in Europe or South America.
Real touring for that record started. We started in South America, which is our first time in South America.
There you go.
Even then, there wasn't really much of a point in playing it because they hadn't heard the album probably didn't come out down there yet. So I think we're still playing River of Rapture.
Arequipa, Peru, then we did Lima, Peru, then we did 2 shows in Chile, then we did Argentina, then we finished off the rest of the remaining weeks in Brazil. So we did, Relentless South American tour.
really, I was just feeling at home on the road by that point. It was just a natural feeling of being on tour. It just felt totally killer when the album dropped. You know, it came out, so now we knew that people would know our new songs that we were going to play.
Anyways, when we finally started playing it was a relief to finally start playing it, because it's like we were being held back, chained from playing our new album for all these different reasons. So when we got to finally actually tour properly for the album, it felt good.
Then we did the Thrash Fest in Europe with Exodus, Creator, and Suicidal Angels. So we did Relentless touring up in Europe. That was phenomenal. I mean, having to tour with those guys is like Exodus. It was our first time touring with Exodus and our first time touring with Creator. And Suicidal Angels is an up-and-coming thrash band from Greece, which is awesome. So it was a really strong package. So we took that Thrash Fest all over Europe.
Yeah, which that's what it was. In that case, that was oh man, if that was how we broke that album in, then that was a rocking, fucking debaucherous good time.
That was insane. I mean, don't put us and Exodus on a tour together. It's like, it's a booze fest. You gotta keep Lee and Mark away. Those guys could party. Will could hold his own too, but I guess they had to drink on that tour to keep themselves warm. I mean, we were playing in fucking places, I think it was -10 or something. It was out of control, but the shows were great. I mean, packed houses and having to play with, you know, Creator and Exodus, everyone bringing their A game was just phenomenal. It was good for us, it was good for the fans, it was just good for everyone in general.
You know, it's funny when you know a band for so long and you're all bros, and then like decades later you do that one tour and you're bros. You know, I consider these guys like my closest musical friends on the planet. You know, like I mean, all the bands I've toured with and stuff, these are the guys I'd take a bullet for, you know, fucking awesome. You know, it's just raging. You have Mark, who's never had a bad day in his life, you know. Yeah, no matter how bad you feel, that guy will perk you up. It's freaking awesome. And I'd do it again tomorrow.
And we started 2011 with the 70,000 tons of metal. I mean, that cruise was out of control.
Good afternoon, you beautiful motherfuckers outside! For those of you who don't know, we're Death Angel. We're from the San Francisco Bay Area, and we play thrash metal. And today, we're playing thrash metal on a fucking boat.
70,000 tons of metal.
How's the cruise? Fucking sucked, man. Totally. Damn, how weak.
Seasick. And each and every one of us is a part of something fucking special right here. No matter what kind of fucking music you're into, what kind of fucking subgenre of metal, whatever, we all wear fucking black.
Shows.
Food poisoning. And right now, we're making the first 70,000 tons of metal cruise a fucking success. And we're doing that together!
Terrible people, terrible friends.
Homoerotic.
A lot of homos.
I mean, you had all the Bay Area bands. You had Testament, Exodus, Death Angel, Forbidden, and you had bands Obituary, Fear Factory, Saxon, Uli Roth, Malevolent Creation, Voivod. You know, it was just an amazing cruise, and that cruise started off our U.S. tour.
But the first dates of the U.S. tour were definitely 70,000 tons of metal.
Let me fucking hear ya! This is dedicated to those homos and swashbuckle. Welcome to the third floor!
Actually, it was killer. We're just fucking around like we always do.
First headlining show when we got back would be in Tampa at the Brass Mug.
I was pretty nervous because these songs are pretty relentless. Like this, like a lot of double bass and this a lot of high speeds and when we started touring, when we were doing headlining sets, like hour and a half with a lot of like songs off the new album. And so yeah, I was a little nervous about like if I was gonna have the endurance or just stamina, whatever you want to call it, like just to get through a tour.
And I wanted to show people that live we were just as much of a force as ever, if not more. And I just felt like I needed to get in people's faces, and that's what we needed to do.
We did a headlining US run. What the hell did we do? We went to Eastern Europe for the first time. Romania, Greece, Istanbul, Croatia, Bosnia, parts of Italy we haven't hit. We did another second leg of the US. We flew immediately to Southeast Asia. We did Amaranto Stadium in Quezon City. Fucking hot as fuck. Bangkok, Thailand, Anthrax, Hellion, and Death Angel, that was amazing. Taiwan, Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and Indonesia, our first time there. Then we went out to Europe to do the summer festivals. Those are always fun. Bang Your Head, we did Work Across, and Getaway Festival in Sweden, and some headliners. And we came back from that. Colombia, Mexico, another festival in Belgium, back in Indonesia, and Solo Indonesia with Cataclysm, which was amazing. Then we started to do the Anthrax, Testament, Death Angel run across America.
Unless you've been in a cave for the last like 20 years and don't know anything about heavy metal, I don't really need to explain to you why touring with Anthrax and Testament is great for Death Angel.
When we were thinking about doing this tour, we wanted to do like the second wave of thrash bands, you know, like Testament and Death Angel and stuff. So we thought that this package would be well received by metal fans.
I think people are really stoked on this package. It's three really great bands, and there's a reason to come out and see all three. And we're obviously selling a shit ton of tickets, you know. So it's, I think it's a great idea, and I hope we get to continue it in January.
We're fucking so happy because we love Death Angel, but you don't play bored.
And we finally had a good break off, which is 2 months, and now we're starting it back up again. Anthrax, Testament, Death Angel. And we're just going to keep touring and touring and touring. So there you go. There's our touring history.
Check it out.
Y'all wanna be on Nuclear Blast?
Shit.
Look at that.
You're all up in this bitch.
Hell yeah, dude. Nuclear Blast pays.
Oh my god! Check out this girl's Daily Roth booth. Shit, man. Straight from the Panama video.
This is Vern. What's up? The only Filipino in Richmond, Virginia. This guy's a stalker on Facebook. You better watch out for him. He's a stalker on Facebook. Yeah. You post something, like 2 seconds later, he likes it. Yeah. Any hour in the night.
I have a message for this awesome fucking DVD that I'm gonna fucking buy when it comes out. Here's the thing with the big four. Fuck you. Here's the big one. The big fucking one. Fuck Metallica. Fuck Anthrax. Fuck Megadeth. Slayer's alright. Slayer's the best. They're on for the ride. But it's right here. These guys, Testament, Flotsam, Jetsam, guys you saw play today. That's where it's at. Fuck the rest.
I'm just a poor brown boy just trying to make it in the world of metal.
Hey man, seriously, thanks Andy. After all this time, his name wrong.
Enough, Gus.
We're gonna bring you back to the ultraviolence right now. Song written about this type of music we play, the type of music that sucked us in when we were fucking kids, and the type of crowds that reacted, and the way the crowds reacted back then. So this one's for all you crazy fuckers that go back that far or that appreciate the music from that era. This is the first song off the ultraviolence. And we want to see you motherfuckers moving. This one's called Thrashers.
Posers, wankers in the back.
That's the fucking best.
Posers, wankers. Oh yeah? It gets even better.
Posers, wankers in the back.
I can't take this bullshit turnaround attack.
Really?
Hell yeah, what do you mean really?
I can't take this bullshit turnaround attack.
Telling the people up front to turn around, run to the back, and beat up the posers and wankers.
That's all wanted to sing to me. How I live my life, and baby, can't you say?
Pleasure, bondage. Okay, there you go. Same to me. How I live my life, and baby, can't you see? That's right.
Pleasures! 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 Passive on their knees, you beg for mercy. Passive on their knees, you plead for mercy.
screaming. Yep. Fighting.
I don't know. I just know like the last two.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's
do
why
you fake it all the way through?
No, I just come in on the last. I don't want to throw anybody off, man. Don't want to throw anybody off.
See?
I'll leave it to these guys.
What is it? Fighting, screaming,
Full the stage,
thrashing.
screaming
With
the rage.
Thrashing.
Yep. Push and shove. Packed in.
Packed in.
Packed in.
I didn't know that.
Like a glove.
Madness, right?
Yep. All around. Falling to the ground. Dying for your breath. Living to your death.
Packed in is what I always forget.
It's some shit right there. Why do you not, man?
Packed in, man. I can
see?
decipher packed in.
No, that's right. Some Filipino shit right there.
Totally.
Packed in. Well, Death Angel is one of those, like, legendary bands, you know? They're totally older than us, you know? So, they were part of the first wave of thrash metal, you know? And in a way, I don't think they ever really got the accolades that they were due.
The way I always viewed them is they were kind of the underdogs, or maybe not necessarily the innovators, but the guys that were constantly overlooked because they were just a little bit before when the flames caught for the whole scene to blow up. But I think they played a huge part in how and why all of us do what we do today.
Coming, you know, from the San Francisco area and stuff, you know, all the thrash and the Bay Area music, but they were, I think, one of the most original bands coming from there.
Death Angel were just kind of part of that. For me personally, I was really into like Exodus and Slayer, early Metallica, Megadeth, of course, and Death Angel were just kind of right in there.
We supported you in 1987, we were bottom of the bill, and as I just told you, that was like playing with Metallica, really. For an out-of-town band from America to come to Liverpool in 87, at the height of the thrash thing, was like a big deal, you know?
I think Death Angel musically was like, you know, as time went on, they got really creative and they really tried a lot of different things, and a lot of bands didn't do that, you know? And, but, you know, I always thought thrash metal was like very liberating anyway. You can do whatever you want, you know? You could like 2.5 minute like discharge type punk songs or like 12-minute epics. It doesn't matter, you know? And you know, and the bands, you know, they're stalwarts, you know, they're still here making some best music they ever made now and kicking serious ass, and they still look 16. That's the important thing, right?
They look younger than me, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, got them good Asian genes. You know, you never age, you know, doing crunches and you know, kickboxing, you know, all the you know, the pre-show workouts that they do, you know, they're very, very, very fit gentlemen.
My whole reason for recording them is because Rob and Ted are genetic. Oh yeah, and Mark are genetic superhumans. And they're never gonna die. Everyone dies first in the world except for them. Everyone else is dead. And if I hang out with them, maybe I could live a little longer. And you know, Rob's Filipino, and my brother's girlfriend's Filipino, and she's not helping me out at all. So maybe Rob could fucking take me into level 3. You know? No. I'm a fat Jew. I'm gonna fucking look like I'm 50 in like 3 days. It's fucking over for me.
We're on tour with Metallica. Kirk Hammett was talking him up. They've known each other for years, you know. And I was like, God, that guy Mark is the greatest. He's like, I know, bro, I know. You know. So I think one of them was in the other one's wedding or something bizarre like that. But really cool dudes, man, and just funny guys. And I'm stoked to see they're still doing it. You know, they got almost twice the years we do in, and you know, it gives a band like us hope that we can keep on doing this.
You guys always had the great talent and performance from day one, and it seems like, you know, you guys are a lot younger than us. So I mean, you guys are still running hard and hot like that, you know. So I think it's killer. I think it's great that, you know, Rob and Mark and everybody, because I know they were doing the organization and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of glad they kind of put it all back together and took the full circle and came back to the beginning, you know.
If you didn't just say it was Carl's Jr., I wouldn't even remember what commercial it was, because I was so thrown off by being like hearing that riff that I play sometimes. Still to this day, I actually play it in our rehearsal room. I was like, that's Death Angel. It actually sounds re-recorded. I don't know if they re-recorded it or what for the commercial, but it sounded good, and I was like, wow, that's pretty big. That's cool.
This is the last song of the night for Death Angel. Thank you so much. So at this point, we want to see you motherfuckers moving. Manila, we want to hear you motherfuckers moving. Manila! We want to feel you, beautiful motherfuckers, moving! This song is from The Art of Dying. This song's called Thrown to the Wolves!
Thank you very much for once again another absolutely beautiful, memorable night in your beautiful fucking city, man. You guys are incredible. Thank you.
sentences I can say about Relentless. Okay. Well, shit.
3 sentences about relentless retribution. All right. Oh man. Okay, hold on. This is gonna stunt me for a minute. I said 3 sentences. Ted, make this one up.
3 sentences. Wow, to describe this album. Oh.
The culmination of classic and modern.
Listen with your ears, not with your eyes. Don't be a poser. No, I don't know.
It's a solid thrashing metal assault.
3 sentences.
3 sentences. I don't know. Listen with your ears.
Meets Bay Area.
Relentless Retribution is the first album that I have ever done without Andy on drums.
Don't judge it because there's not all original members.
Fuck.
Meets international thrash.
It just feels new. It feels new, although it's an album of a band that's 25 years into their career.
It's a thrash album with lots of melody.
Featuring a brand new lineup.
It's an in-your-face record.
Probably the most cathartic album that I've ever been a part of.
Thirdly, Relentless Retribution has the fucking baddest, sickest album cover that we've ever had. So, you know, look at the cover of Relentless Retribution. Will says listen with your ears. I say listen with your ears and your heart. But look at the artwork because it's fucking badass.
From a thrash legendary classic that, I guess that's 2 sentences, right? Metal.
And oh, the album fucking rules.
And it's an album where we're not fucking around no more. There you go. 3 sentences. Off the top of my head.